The sound of shattering glass never left him. Even 30 years later, Nathan could hear at the specific pitch of a dinner plate hitting the kitchen wall, the crystalline cascade of his mother's favorite vase exploding against hardwood. But worse than the breaking was the silence that followed, thick and suffocating, punctuated only by his mother's quiet weeping from behind the bedroom door. He was 8 the first time he understood that fathers weren't supposed to make mothers cry. 8 when he pressed his small body against the hallway wall, making himself as flat and invisible as possible, watching his father's broad back block the doorway, shoulders heaving with rage over some imagined slight. 8 when he made his first promise, "I will never be like him." The promises multiplied as the years accumulated. At 10, hiding beneath his bed with his hands pressed over his ears, "I will never raise my voice in anger." At 12, watching his mother apply concealer to the bruise blooming across her cheekbone, "I will never make anyone afraid." At 15, finally tall enough to step between them, his voice cracking as he shouted, "Stop! I will never lose control." He kept those promises, every single one. Nathan grew into a man of careful calibrations, a man who measured his words before speaking them, who counted to 10 before responding to anything that stirred heat in his chest. He dated cautiously through college, keeping women at arm's length, ending things the moment they leaned in too close. He told himself he was protecting them. From what he couldn't quite articulate, he had never once raised a hand, never unleashed the monster he feared lived coiled in his DNA. But the fear persisted, a background hum beneath every interaction. What if I'm just like him? Sarah entered his life like spring after a long winter, gradual, gentle, impossible to resist. They met at a bookstore, reaching for the same worn copy of Neruda's poetry. She laughed, insisting he take it, and he found himself unable to walk away without asking her to coffee. She said yes, with a smile that made his chest ache in ways he didn't recognize. For 6 months, he kept her at the practice distance. Coffee dates became dinners, dinners became long walks through the city, but always he maintained the space between them. He never raised his voice. He never disagreed too strenuously. He watched himself with Sarah the way a scientist watches a volatile experiment, ready to shut it down at the first sign of danger. She noticed, of course. Sarah noticed everything. "You're always so calm," she said one evening, studying him across a restaurant table. "Sometimes I wonder if anything reaches you." "Everything reaches me," he wanted to say. "You reach me in places I've kept locked since childhood." Instead, he smiled and changed the subject. The night it ended, they were cooking dinner together in her apartment. He was chopping vegetables with meticulous precision when she asked him, voice soft but insistent, "Nathan, do you love me?" His hands stilled. The knife hovered above a half-diced onion. "I care about you very much." "That's not what I asked." She noticed, of course. Sarah noticed everything. "You're always so calm," she said one evening, studying him across a restaurant table. "Sometimes I wonder if anything reaches you." "Everything reaches me," he wanted to say. "You reach me in places I've kept locked since childhood." Instead, he smiled and changed the subject. The night it ended, they were cooking dinner together in her apartment. He was chopping vegetables with meticulous precision when she asked him, voice soft but insistent, "Nathan, do you love me?" His hands stilled. The knife hovered above a half-diced onion. "I care about you very much." "That's not what I asked." He set down the knife carefully, precisely, buying time. The kitchen suddenly felt smaller, the walls pressing in like the hallway of his childhood home. "Sarah, You what? You can't say it? Won't say it?" Her voice held no anger, only a terrible, gentle sadness. "You know what I think? I think you do love me. I think you love me and it terrifies you." The truth of it struck him like a physical blow. His throat tightened. In his peripheral vision, he saw his hand resting on the counter, fingers splayed, and for a horrifying moment, he saw his father's hand broad-knuckled, capable of such tenderness and such violence. "I can't," he whispered. "Can't love me? Or can't admit it? I can't risk it." The words tumbled out before he could stop them. "I can't risk becoming him." Sarah's expression shifted, confusion giving way to understanding. "Your father." He nodded, unable to meet her eyes. "Every time I feel too much, every time I feel anger or jealousy or even too much happiness, I think, this is how it starts. This is the crack in the dam." so I don't let myself feel it, any of it. She moved closer, and he forced himself not to step back. When she took his hand, he felt the tremor in his fingers. Nathan, you're not your father. You could never be your father. You don't know that. I do. Her grip tightened. Because your father would never spend 30 years terrified of hurting someone. Your father would never hold himself back from love out of fear of causing pain. The fact that you're afraid of becoming him proves you never will. He wanted to believe her. God, how he wanted to believe her. But the sound of shattering glass echoed in his memory, and his mother's tears, and the terrible powerlessness of the boy he'd been. I watched him destroy her, Nathan said, voice breaking. Little by little, year by year, she stayed because she loved him, and that love killed something in her. I swore I would never do that to anyone, never make anyone that afraid, that small. And if keeping that promise means keeping this distance. He finally looked at her, eyes burning. Then that's what I have to do. Sarah's face crumpled, and he hated himself for putting that pain there, for proving, in his own way, that he could hurt her after all, not with his hands or his voice, but with his absence. The distance is the abuse, Nathan, she said softly. Withholding love because you're afraid, that's its own kind of destruction. She left him standing in her kitchen, and he didn't follow. He kept his promise. He maintained the distance. But as he walked home through the quiet streets, he carried a new question, one he'd never allowed himself to ask. What if the boy I was didn't just fear becoming his father? What if he also needed to learn how to love at all? The sound of his own footsteps echoed in the empty night, and for once, he didn't try to silence them. He let himself feel the crushing weight of loss, the ache of love acknowledged too late. He let himself feel everything, standing on the precipice of the very thing he'd spent a lifetime running from. His own heart, capable of such tenderness and such pain. Just like anyone else's. Just like his mother's, who loved despite everything. Nothing like his father's at all.